Welcome to the Self-Publishing Tips and Tricks Show, a series designed to give you insight into the world of self-publishing and marketing your books. Featuring your hosts, Shannon, the author behind the pen name SC Huston, Ben Pick, and Morgan Lee. Join us several times each month when we interview authors about their self-publishing and marketing journeys, talk to industry leaders, and discuss books about writing, self-publishing, and marketing. Hello everyone, my name is Shannon, writing on the pen name of SC Huston, a YA fantasy and romance fantasy author, and today we're doing a special off-season episode all about marketing books. We're joined today also by several guest authors, but before we bring them on, let's go ahead and give some updates about what we might have going on, what we're doing, and we are recording this in March, and it comes out April 15th.
Perfect. Yeah, I am Ben Pick, and every Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, I do live streams and videos on YouTube as Running to Write, where I give questionable writing advice through running metaphors. I also have my third book out now, before this video, but by the time you all watch it, it will be out now. It's called Saving the Lost, and I'm really excited for it. So I'll have had a book launch party. I'll have done all this stuff, but now there's no time like the present to pick up your copy. And
you're going to Awesome Calm. You'll be doing that before this episode.
That's coming up this weekend.
The
weekend that we're we're recording this on Sunday.
Yeah.
The following weekend is when Awesome Con is. So
nice.
I'll be a vendor there, and I'll have all kinds of fun stories about that.
Yes.
And actually in April, I'll be ramping up for Kensington Row Bookshop and Balticon.
Okay. I thought maybe you were just going to one or the other, so you're going to get to go to both. That would be great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Awesome Con they do a whole bunch of random, like the date has shifted over the years.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
But Balticon as far as I know, it's always been on the Memorial Day weekend, and then Kensington Row Books is late April. So it all kind of works out.
I love that you do all this going to conference and stuff, which is a part of marketing books. So hopefully we'll talk about that a little bit.
Sure.
So for me, in April, we will be gearing up for the authortube writing conference because that's going to happen in June. It's June 28th through the 30th. And April is when we're lining everything up because May 1st is when we release the full schedule on the website. So April is all about getting that all put together. And once everybody has said yes, that they're going to come, by this point, our speakers would be able to have already said back to us, yes, we can do it. And then they sign the contracts and then we start putting together the schedule. So April is a very busy month. So I figured that's going to be happening. It's also Camp Nano. So hopefully I'll be writing during that time period as well. I'm hoping to get the third book going because we're in March right now. I'm hoping to finish my second book in my series this month and then start the third book in April. So
wow.
That's where we're at.
Busy.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to bring on all of our guests. We have 3 of them joining us today, and they've all been here before. So it's nice to have guests come back and join us. So first, we're going to welcome Andy, who was on the show with us when we reviewed Atomic Habits by James Clear back in season 2, episode 32. So would you please tell everyone who you are, what you published, and where people can find you, Andy?
Hey, thanks, Shannon and Ben, for having me on today. Really appreciate the opportunity. So yeah, I'm Andy. I mostly run the YouTube channel, Self-Pub with Andy. Link will probably be in the show notes, which is cool. Thank you. And I just share my journey, things I learn, things I'm experiencing, things I'm testing out sometimes. So yeah, come over to my YouTube channel. That's where I mostly hang out. At the moment, I'm working on attempting to write a fiction novel. It's probably going to be a spy military thriller, action thriller thing. It's early days. I am going through the usual struggles of writer's block and having issues writing the actual novel, but hopefully I'll get there eventually. I have published nonfiction stuff, but I don't really share much of that. But I will share what I have been doing for marketing purposes. So that is me.
Awesome. And so next we're going to welcome author TILLERY, who we had on our very first season here. She was in episode 10. And she also came back to host the special episode that we had for the season 3 finale, and that was episode 52. So welcome, TILLERY. Please tell us or tell everyone who you are, what you publish, and where people can find you.
Hi, everyone. I'm author TILLERY, the Mistress of Horror. I'm married to all the other genres, but I'm the Mistress of Horror. I am the author of The Room Within and Fractals, and the just recently released last month, Thorns of My Heart, which is a dark romance poetry collection. Long time coming, but it's finally here. And you can get all my works in ebook and paperback on Amazon. I'm one of those Amazon authors. But you can find out more about me on my YouTube channel and through my website. And I like to link everything together, so I use Linktree, so you can get all my book links through there, all my social media through there, all in one place. But on my YouTube channel, you can find out about all the horror things I talked about and all of my book journeys.
Nice. I love the idea of a link tree. We actually did one of the smaller tip or trick episodes on using these shorteners or the places where you can bring together all of your links in one place. All right, next we are going to bring on Adrian Santiago, who we got a chance to interview back in season 3, so not too long ago, and that was episode 34. So welcome, Adrian. Please tell everyone a little bit about you, what you publish, and where people can find you.
Hey guys, thank you very much for having me. I'm surrounded by some of my favorite people to talk to on the internet here, and Andy's here too. No, just kidding. I love you too, bud. Hi, I'm Adrian Santiago. I am the writer of the Mythic series. Book 1, Shadow of the Spark. This mamma jamma right here came out last April. And if this is coming out in April, then I should be wrapping up draft 0 of book 2 right now when you guys are watching this. So if the gods of time and writing are good to me, that will be true. Or maybe I'll have to include a retraction later. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, find me at booksbyadrian.com. And I got a YouTube channel, all that good stuff. It'll all be downstairs. And I'm so happy to be here. Let's do this.
Awesome. Yes. So we are going to talk about marketing books. And the one thing that I've always heard is that word of mouth is like the best marketing. And I just remembered it just now. So this is not something I built into what we were going to do today, but I was talking about your book, Adrian, to my gym trainer, and I was telling him all about it. And he went and bought a paperback copy. And this was like 2 Fridays ago. So if you've got a sale, then that was from him.
I do believe I saw that sale. Yeah. All right. Very nice. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it.
I told him, I said, it's got like lots of genres. I start talking about, the sci-fi, the fantasy, the serial killer. And I was like, it's a lot. And he was like, that sounds awesome.
Did you warn him about the spices?
I did. I told him there was some romance thrown in there, and that toward the end, you kind of get a scene. And he's like, that's okay.
I find it important to warn about the spicy. You never know.
Yeah.
Got some seasoning.
Right? Yeah. A little bit of this.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So, let's start with what type of marketing do you guys do right now for your published works? Anybody's, let us know.
I can start. I actually started using TikTok more, and I use Instagram. Those are my 2 main sources, and I recently linked into Thread, which is linked to Instagram for there. I have decent following more on TikTok. I found that TikTok, because so many people use that, younger audiences use that too. So you can kind of build your repertoire there faster even than YouTube. As the build for YouTube can be a longer journey, and it can be a little bit, of a pullback on you. So TikTok I use, and it works really good for book talks, as they call them. So you usually could put like a little quick videos together on there, and that's what I tend to do, teaser type of videos for your books. And then Instagram I usually use for quick little videos as well. Those work quite well. And then I use YouTube as the main base for my bigger audience. So it's like my dedicated people. And a newsletter. That's like those are my go-to. My newsletter is a slow build, no lie. But that's what I mainly use. And if you notice, all those are kind of like free advertising, marketing type of ways to go about it, which of course all of us indie authors can use free based marketing in the forefront. Paying is great, of course, if you have it to do it, but it is also not maybe the main one you go to unless you know for sure that this is going to bring you people. So you of course want to use all the free avenues that are available to you. And I do recommend now for sure TikTok and Instagram as far as worked for me.
Yeah, to piggyback a little bit on what you're talking about, I find that my newsletter is as modest size-wise as it is the main source of my sales. I would probably attribute maybe 80% of my sales to that newsletter, save for like weird stuff like Smashwords sales and stuff like that, where like I'm giving the book away for free and all of a sudden 99 copies go. Not counting those, 80% of my sales are from the newsletter. So I find newsletters to be very important, and I dedicate a couple hours every week to growing the newsletter and get, swaps with other people and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And to also, what's it called, sound out more what you were saying, if it's free, it's for me. That's what I always say. And especially when you're starting out. Yeah. Especially when you're first starting out. Yes, there are things that you will end up paying for, to help your marketing. And yes, it's worth paying for those things, especially if you're going to the kind of places that are going to give you the quality for what you pay for. But you don't have to pay for anything. You can stick to the free places like Instagram, TikTok, like we mentioned, and all those places, and do your best, and you will get some sales. But yeah, you are going to want to pay for some stuff. Yeah, you're going to want to pay for some services later on. Newsletter swaps key upon them. You know, I pay monthly for Story Origin. And,
I already say that Story Origin's a good go-to.
Yeah, it's a lifesaver, man, for sure. I swear by it.
Adrian, would you mind expanding on how you include your link to your books within your newsletter or your general flow of your newsletter so that sort of funnels down to that point?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I have everything just sort of shoved into Amazon, and I do a little bit of mix and match.
I'd be happy to. All right. So in the last one, I tend to, design the style of my newsletter and then stick to that for as long as I love it. And so right now, my thing is that I have a different piece of artwork at the top of each newsletter, something, that really catches the eye, makes you want to like scroll down and read more. So I find that to be really important, some kind of visual like spark to catch people's eyes. Across the top of my newsletter, I always have a link to my website, a link to the universal book link for my novel so that you can get it wherever you like to get books. Universal book link is a big one. I have a link to where they can get signed copies from me directly, and then a place for them to contact me directly. And then those are the 4 links across the top of my newsletter every week. After that, a nice little thing that I write every week, some sort of like, it's almost like a blog entry, keep people up to date on what's going on, what you're working on, what's coming down the pipeline. After that, some promos for stuff going on my channel and anywhere else on my author platform, an ad for my book itself, including the price and where they can buy it, information about the book, the blurb, all that good stuff. And at the very bottom is where I'll include, the newsletter swaps, the reader magnets, books for sale, and group promos as well. If you can hop on group promos, I greatly recommend that. I use that same kind of setup for each one. Always my personal stuff at the top, my author stuff in the middle, everybody else at the bottom. And then that way people scroll all the way down and at the end have something to click on to go elsewhere and, buy some new stuff and read some new stories. If you can include free stuff in each newsletter, do, whether it's a reader magnet to another author or something else, something that, somebody can click on and have something shiny and new to enjoy. That's a big help. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here taking notes, and I actually have your email up, and so I'm like comparing what you're saying to exactly what it looks like. So
nice.
What about you, Andy? What are you doing for your marketing?
I'm gonna just take a step back and say this is slightly marketing adjacent, so it's not like 100% marketing, but it does work for me, and I think it works because it's nonfiction. And that is keywords. So I revisit my keywords every so often. And if I don't show up on page 1 for a keyword that I want, that is kind of like my main marketing technique to easily tackle. So I'm talking about like back-end keywords, or if you have the opportunity, you can change the subtitle on your, let's say, your ebook. I'm not suggesting everyone do that, but it is something that's currently available. And some people do change it just to see what tweaks the algorithm, right? So that for me is like number 1, easiest route to finding new readers. But it's not really strictly like marketing per se, but that's like number 1 for me, because when people type in, I want a whatever book, self-help book on I don't know, something. It doesn't matter what it is. That's my main marketing tool. And then I have like other things, promo stacking is one of the things I really like. That one can cost money. It doesn't always. It depends on the ones you choose, of course, So the promo stacking is a thing. And then the other main one I use would be book awards. So sometimes I'll enter a book award in the hope that I will get somewhere, because I may not. And that one, again, may or may not come with a cost. And again, it's up to you whether you want to fork out for that. I think the final one is kind of editorial reviews, where, it's worth trying for the free ones at least, and you may or may not get it. But the good thing about editorial reviews is, and book awards, actually, both of them, they will put a blast out if you become like a finalist or whatever. They will say, oh, we've just reviewed this book. Oh, these books have just become finalists, or they just won an award or whatever. that's like free promotion. Well, it's not free if you had to pay for it. I get that. There's an entry fee, but if you do get somewhere, that's effectively forever marketing with Google backing it, using a platform that's already established. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, those are kind of my main things. I appreciate the first one is kind of a bit out there.
Well, even with when you said like the keywords and the subtitle, I mean, I've been to a few, I go to a lot of webinars and stuff. I have gone to a lot of webinars, and anything free that was out there, whether it's writing or marketing or whatever, publishing, I've gone to. This year I told myself I was going to back off because I need more time to write. But one of the last ones I went to last year, they talked about that, not just for nonfiction books, but to look at that for fiction books, and that you should be doing that every couple of months because it changes, especially on Amazon, changes so quickly.
Absolutely.
One thing I want to ask you, Andy, when you said you changed your subtitle, of course, when I went to this webinar, it was for Amazon specific, and you're talking about just Amazon?
That will be Amazon specific.
Okay.
The other stuff you would probably have to target the back end, but the back end usually it gets a less like priority. So it's title, typically, not always, but typically title, subtitle, and then back end keywords if there are any, followed by description. Now Amazon doesn't specifically rank in description, but Google does.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have keywords in your description, you are basically, for lack of a better term, you are screwing yourself over for free marketing on Google.
And for fiction writers, that can often look like the tropes that are in your book.
Precisely. So fiction will be whatever tropes it is, and then maybe you want to niche down. Don't go for super popular stuff. That's my main thing for newer authors. Even when I started as a newer author as well. But don't go for super popular stuff like fantasy romance. Like, who on earth is going to search for your book with such a hot keyword? They will probably rank like a billion search results later. The ones that will rank are the ones that are selling right now. So you want to go for something much more niche, right? And that is like essentially, for me anyway, it's free marketing that people should use. And okay, we can talk about data around keywords and all that, but the point is that you need to be using keywords as part of your marketing toolbox, because that is literally Google, that's literally Amazon. They are sending you traffic according to what they think people are searching for. And if you get keywords that people are searching for, then you're in the bag. You're number one on that page. Hopefully that page, maybe top of the page. I always like using Dale L. Roberts, keywords for Amazon or whatever his book is called. I can't remember, but it's basically you type in Amazon keywords in Amazon, and that is literally like within the first page, first one or two rows. And that's the power of keywords. And how much time has he spent trying to mine that keyword? It's probably minimal. He's probably put minimal time, and he's secured that rank, and that is almost forever going to be his. So if you get your book into some kind of position where it ranks on Google or it ranks on Amazon or whatever it is, whatever search engine you're looking at, that is, to me, the fastest and easiest marketing tool available. And it's probably free if you don't use any tools. Now, if you use tools, that's a different matter. It's up to you. But yeah, those are kind of my top three go-to. As a nonfiction author, I don't really have a big newsletter list, so it's not really a big thing for me. But hopefully, as I grow, then I probably will be using the email list a bit more. But right now, it's not a big thing. I think you guys probably have much more experience on that front than I do.
Yeah, keywords is definitely the weakest part of my game. You know what I mean? Like, it's the thing that I want to work on the most because, like you say, you put in sci-fi fantasy, you're going to get billions of results. Like, I'm just going to be a tiny little ant amongst. So finding those niche keywords, that's definitely key.
It's also about testing. So that's what a lot of people kind of miss. And it's easy to miss because people get very discouraged. It's kind of like me writing a new book. I don't know anything about fiction writing. I've been very honest about that. I'm trying my hand at it. I'm learning as I go, but that's not a reason to stop. And it's kind of the same with keywords. No one's going to get it the first time. No one, ever. I mean, that's just the fact of it. Unless you're already super popular, no one is going to get that. But you do have to navigate it with some caution, and you have to understand the rules. So don't, for example, don't use trademark names, that gets a lot of people in trouble. Don't use super popular words, because if someone's looking for, I don't know, Iron Man 2, right? Iron Man 2, the movie. They're not looking for your book. So don't put Iron Man 2 in your keywords, because number one, it's not accurate, and that's not what they're looking for. And number two, it actually works against you. When someone looks for a certain book and they do not click on your book, even though your book shows up as number one, guess what's going to happen? The algorithm is going to push your book lower down the ranks. They're going to say, for this keyword, no one is interested, pan it, right? So you just spent time thinking you're being smart, but actually, no, you're just wasting your time. So yeah, that's my rant on using keywords for marketing.
No, yeah, the whole trial and error thing is so huge, because that's something that indie authors, myself included, will be guilty of. Is we'll put in the keywords and then we'll just walk away and just hope that it works out. And then you come back a few months later and you look and it's not doing anything, and you try again, and like, you got to stay on it. You got to try it.
Make a plan. Make a plan.
I'm a scientist, like a scientific background by trade. That's why I spent most of my formative years. Anyway, my point about that is you have to have data. And if you, like, let's say you try a keyword and it doesn't work, that means they're telling you this keyword doesn't work, So instead of saying, oh my God, this doesn't work, you should be saying, this keyword doesn't work, which means you got to try something else. So try a different keyword and keep trying. And hopefully one day you will be like, okay, this is how it works. And like I said before, don't go for the super popular keywords, because no one's going to look for your book when it's a really hot keyword. Go for something a bit more niche, and keep drilling down until you find your niche.
Yeah, that's really important, because like, if one of your major influences, for example, speaking towards myself, one of my major influences is, A Song of Ice and Fire books, Game of Thrones. If I put Game of Thrones in my keywords and somebody's searching for Game of Thrones and my book comes up, they're going to scroll right past it. That's not what they're looking for. They don't understand that it's an influence of mine, that doesn't translate.
I think that's fine to use in Amazon ads. You can use ads and you can use those keywords. That's fine. I'm talking more the organic keyword stuff. So the organic stuff, I would not be using popular words and trademark terms. But for Amazon ads, I would absolutely use those words if it were to result in sales and stuff.
Well, and I think a good resource for keywords looking at, and I think he does suggest using some broad and niche keywords, is the Kindlepreneur website with Dave Chesson.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. He did an actual experiment with a lot of people chiming in. I'm sure we're talking on the same website.
Yeah.
Do you want me to find it and send it to you?
Oh, no, I have read that. Yeah.
Oh no, I mean, yeah, that's one that everyone should be reading.
If you want to send me this link, and I can put it in the show notes.
Cool, I can do that. But yeah, combination of, I can't remember who I learned it from, but it's like keyword laddering. So you go with a combination of popular and less popular terms. So the idea is that as you rank for the less popular terms, Amazon or whatever algorithm is going to say, ooh, people like this kind of book. Is there a chance they also like similar books within this niche? And then they bump you up, let's say, one rank on the niche ranking thing, So instead of like popular cat unicorn books or something, I'm just making this up. So it goes from popular cat unicorn books with farts, and you rank for that keyword, and people are like, ooh, what happens if we remove one of those words? Popular books with farts. And then suddenly you just gone up a niche. So if you transfer that idea from that idea into your fiction world or whatever niche you're writing in, it could be like fantasy romance with gore or something like that. I'm just making stuff up. Or with fairies or whatever. And then you keep niching down. And then let's say you rank for that keyword. You're getting sales. The data says you're getting sales. Then go up one level and say remove the gore and see if you still rank. And if sales continue to come in, you can compete probably for higher competition keywords, and that's how you do it. And this is why you got to start low. You don't aim for the high. Go for the low hanging fruit first. And yes, I will send you that link to Dave Chesson's article.
Ben, what about you? What marketing do you do right now for your books?
I've tried a couple of different things. The stuff I've mostly done, obviously, there's YouTube, there's Instagram, there's Facebook, the basics, the free things. But I've also tried to do services that are each individually, they're relatively cheap. So that's why I've used them. I actually have a list right here of what I've used this upcoming time. So I have it set up right now for just Kindle Books, My Book Place, and Book Goodies that kind of all add me into, newsletter or whatever forum. And it'll say, hey, here's Saving the Lost. You like fantasy books? Here's a bunch of other fantasy books. So mine will be one of those 100 books, and I'll send it out to the mass distribution list. And hopefully I'll get some hits from that, because it's, hey, you like this book, you like this book, you like this book, try this one. I don't know how well this will work. In the past with my first 2 books, using services like these, again, I don't remember exactly which ones I used, so I think these might be a little bit different, but I don't recall being able to directly align sales to those services. And so with this time around, I'm trying to do this as metrics-based as possible, where each one of these is, a week or 4 days or 1 day, and I have it staggered. So, I start off with one, I'll see if there's any sales. I start off with the next one, see if there are any sales. And the good thing about KDP is that I can see down to the day when things are purchased. With the book launches of my last book, I was using a different publisher, and so there was kind of a delay. And when there was a delay, like the dates, the numbers sort of got a little bit fuzzed. So I was never able to actually attribute anything to those services. And I'm really hoping that this time around I can, and that will help guide me for future books. I'm also working with BookFunnel. I have a book swap set up for the end of the month, so just before my book launch. And then following that in April 3rd, so my next newsletter that I send out, I'll include their book. So I'm trying to slowly build up these things over time. And then if that's successful, I'll try and add in more book funnels every month. And I'll see how well that goes over. With my first 2 books, actually, Adrian really helped me out a lot. He came up with these really awesome teasers that are, 60, 90 seconds. I think I got the 2 for 90 seconds. And they're wonderful. So I put them on Facebook and I linked ads to them. And I was able to see a couple of sales coming through for that, which was really cool. But the cost for Facebook to get in front of people's eyes, it never really equated to enough sales. Yeah, the ROI was really bad on that. So it was really cool to do. It was a fun experiment, but ultimately I think I'm going to scrap that one for future books.
You also do one other big thing that we talked about at the beginning of this episode, which is you go to all these cons.
Yes, that's new though. So officially, I went to Balticon once, but before that, I was going as a con goer. But yes, Balticon last year was the first year I went as an official vendor. There are a couple other local libraries things I went to, but yes, starting off this year, I am trying to get out the gate. I'm trying to lead with my best foot forward, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. And so have a plan for this upcoming weekend to have my booth set up, have my first 2 books. I'll have a limited number of copies of my 3rd book, because I'm assuming that if somebody comes through and they're not going to buy all 3 books at once, they're just meeting me. But I figure it would be nice to have, as that book isn't technically available yet. So it'll be kind of a con exclusive. I am planning to keep going back to multiple cons and use that as a great way to personally meet a whole bunch of people.
I've done 2 book festivals so far. And, the first one I sold way more books than I thought I would, but less than I needed to make it worth my while. And the same thing the second time. And I'm learning that, the second time, the cost of admission was only $50 for me, comparative to the first one, Orlando Reads Books, which was last year. That it was nothing compared to that one. That one was a much higher cost. And so that one was more of a loss for me, the one last year. This one, I felt like it was way more worth it. I think that your display at your table is incredibly important, how you do it, how interactive you can make it, if you can make people stay. I busted out my iPad and propped it up, and I had my book trailer playing on a loop, and I had a little headphones. You could walk up, and I had little wipes. You can wipe down the headphones, put them on, listen to
You're giving Ben ideas. I can see him thinking over there.
I can't tell you how many times.
I find a Kindle, because that's perfect. We don't. There's no electronics set up near the booth, but I think I can find a Kindle somewhere that can.
I have my Kindle, and I would have my Kindle out with the digital book already opened on it, so people would see the cover, but they could also swipe through if they're really interested. The iPad playing with a speaker or headphones, either way. Sometimes I had the speaker going, sometimes I had the headphones, and I saw people walking by and literally stop and back up and watch for a while and then get closer, and then before long they were asking me questions. And so get people talking, get people asking questions, make them stop, do something to attract the eye to your table. And
you could have that put that up as a YouTube video that only you can access to, unlisted or private, and then you just have it play on a loop, and that way it's always playing no matter who's walking by.
Exactly.
Now, I can attest to this for sure, because I used to run a convention, but it was for dance, but we took every kind of vendor, because people like different things rather than coming for something specific. So we had authors and stuff that would come there, and just vendors in general. It's very much about you, for sure. Your attitude, your demeanor. If you got that zazz, if you want to call it that, it makes people come to your table. It makes them stay. That personality, because I would take like just surveys myself walking around as a director, watching my vendors, and the people who had the personalities that were outgoing or something big to capture people's attention. You only needed just that second to capture their attention, rather that be your personality or something colorful or something that would make them look. If you look up things about like that grabs people's attention as far as like colors and things like that catches the human eye, that's good research to do if you're going to be out vending at conventions and things like that. And I took surveys watching my vendors, the people who had the personalities and the different displays that caught people's attention. Like you put up the iPad playing your trailer, that was catching people's attention. So those type of things definitely can attest that they do work, because those people had higher sales and had more people stopping at their booths and their tables because they had something. And people always like stuff you think you could give away for free. You can always just take little marketing things, rather be your business card, or in our case, a bookmark, put a piece of candy with it. And if they can take something away, even if they didn't buy a book, they could buy a book later. So you want to have something that's not going to overcost you, also that's free, that also has your advertising product attached to it. So I can contest about any convention stuff because I did it for like decades.
I can attest to all of that. The color comment included. Usually it's a sea of like black table linens, and if you just happen to be the one with a red one or a yellow one, you're gonna stand out. That's one way that you can grab the eye. What you're saying about bookmarks, same thing. I know this is mostly audio only, so people can't see it, but I have bookmarks printed up for myself. I have 2 QR codes on them. One of them sends it to the website where they can sign up for the newsletter and get a free short story. Boom, free. The other side is, once you've read that short story, if you like it, this QR code will take you to the book, to the novel. You can buy the novel and continue on from there. Advertising, both free, sell. And having a stack of those on your table, even if the person is not necessarily interested in buying a book in front of you right now, give them a free bookmark. Who knows? Maybe their kid will scan it later and they'll buy you your book. Who knows, right? Like
you don't know.
You don't know where it's going to end up. Yeah.
Something I always thought, if I go to a con, because I do write fantasy, but I think a lot of us could do this for our books, is I would dress up as one of my characters.
Smart idea.
So I've done
there was
that.
some doing that.
Yeah. So like for Halloween, I did myself as a moon fae, and I was like, I could do that again if I went to a con. I could look like, and people were like, well, what are you? Because I don't look exactly like a fairy, but so.
Yep. That's that attention grabber. Yeah. You had something different going on that another person did not. And it's in person, that in-person thing, which unfortunately I don't do anymore because I'm a bit high level of a germaphobe. So I don't do the conventions anymore. So then I have to find out virtual ways to pull people in this way. Of course, being at virtual conventions can help. When I ran my convention the last year I did it virtually. So it's not out of the realm for people who don't go physically to conventions and cons. When I did my vendors haven, that mine was called, the vendors were still set up in rooms, but they were virtual rooms. So people who were shopping at the convention actually could come into the virtual room. You just use these type of things, and they would see the vendors showing their stuff. So even a person who was a author who was going to, they could show their books, they could show clips, they could do this and do that. So it's still feasible if you're virtually online, because some people got to think some of the hermits that are us.
You could dress up and be online.
Exactly. So It is all about that, catching that attention. That's still a big thing for marketing. That's a good part of the marketing for sure.
Now, that can sound really daunting to people, because I don't know if you guys know this, but statistically speaking, authors, we're not the most social of people.
That's why I said if I went to a con, that's what I would do.
Yeah.
I used to be.
We choose a profession. where you sit at a computer in a dark room by yourself with headphones on, just
Dark
clacking
room.
away.
Right. So no surprise, we're
you
more
did.
introverted, right? Yeah.
Now, I say that because you're absolutely right. The personality is going to be a huge factor, especially in those in-person situations. And I can honestly say, man, like being the most recent book festival that I went to as a vendor, sitting at my table and looking across the aisle at the tables on the other side of me, very elaborate tables, lots of stuff going on them, maybe too much stuff going on it, maybe the person doesn't know where the eye goes or anything like that. And then even if the person gets to the point where they want to ask a question of this author about their stuff, they're getting one-word answers, or they're getting monotone responses, or you just answer the question and then that's it. Like, there's no engagement. There's nothing that makes that person feel warm. And
I think about that. You gotta have a game plan kind of in your
like,
head.
this
with the
person
outline.
doesn't want to sell me a book, so I'm out, and they'll walk away. You know what I mean? And that author, I saw them getting more and more frustrated throughout the day, being like, I'm not selling anything. This sucks. I wasted money coming here. And I'm sitting there and sitting here going like, you need to like liven up, dude. Like,
see, you sound like me when I was at the conventions, because you have vendors,
true,
they start getting upset and they think it's like someone else's fault but their own. And those are the ones really at fault, but it's just you aren't giving the people what they want in order for them. They see you in person, so they really do want to connect with you. It's different if they never see you and they see your book and then the cover, and then they go for it because they saw the cover. But now they get to see the author behind the cover. So you kind of really, that's your time to shine and for them to see, possibly get to know you. But it's not easy for everybody, of course, to be outgoing. That's not something everyone can do. So then they get into that rut. You have to find other ways around that. You got to make your display.
Folks need to remember that for when a movie's coming out, the actors go out and they promote the movie, and they have to be charming and personable, and they have to answer the same question millions of times over and over and over again. And they do it because they have to, because that's the only way to sell this thing. And you have to realize that you have to do that because as an author, whether you've written one book or 20, you are the product. You are the brand. You are what the people are going to keep coming back for. Once they've read one book, guess what their question is going to be? What's next? Where's the next one? So that's a relationship that you're building with your readers. Your personality is a huge part of that, a huge part of your marketing.
All right. So I think it's interesting that some of the marketing things that we do seem to kind of fall into two different camps. So we've got the marketing, the social media, the newsletter. These are kind of consistent marketing that we do. Whereas like the promo stacking, I'm assuming that we don't usually do that unless we have like a sale going on. So those are like bursts of, things happening. There's also ads. I know Ben talked about Facebook ads, but I do Amazon ads. Does anybody else do any type of ads?
Yeah, I got Amazon ads running. Well, I paused them, but my main issue with Amazon ads is that I haven't been able to get a good return, basically. Like I make something, or I don't make something, and it ends up just costing too much, and I just turn it off. But yeah.
Ads could be both that long-term or short-term.
That's right. Yeah.
Myself, and I used some of the things I learned from Dale when he said, like, don't try to, like, you start small. You know what I mean? Also figure out what works. And that comes back to what Andy was talking about, certain keywords and things like that you can use in there. And which I really like about the Amazon, when you do run a sale and you run ads, that they giving you feedback on like what's being clicked on. And I did that on Room Within and Fractals just to see, because throughout the year, usually with Fractals and Room Within for marketing, I will make them free on specific holidays that are kind of adjacent to them. And then I usually will run a ad or something on the paperback or something like that. But when you run these ads and stuff like that, you can put all those keywords in, and it really does work quite well. I did make some sales from them when I did do it. I have done also Facebook, which did not pan out very well. I did spend some money, as Ben said, but I didn't I got seen, but I didn't get sales from it residually. You know what I mean? So you can run ads on most things on a lot of these platforms if you want to pay. That could be TikTok, that could be Facebook. If you make a post, you could do promote, which will get it in front of more people. I think on TikTok, when you do the promote, it will give you a flood of being in front of people, which is good. And it could possibly not bring you sales, but it also is not overly expensive, but it can get in front of a lot of viewers quickly.
Exposure.
yeah, quick exposure, which is always good too. But I think when you talk about TikToks type of thing and you pay, if you do or don't pay TikTok, it's all about that video and your interest, the pool of the interest. And you could get direct sales by and people talking directly to you. They're like, oh, well, when is this coming out? And you could directly talk to them. And you're like, oh, this is coming out when? Or they're like, oh, I want that. Or when is this one coming out? So it's kind of like almost interacting with your readers, but on a different type of platform. Other places for ads, I've done Google, like just, Google ads, which is, that could be a little expensive.
I've heard that don't work out very well for authors.
Yeah, it doesn't always work out well for authors, but that's when I was like, I used Room Within and Fractals as like my test guides because since Cagliostro was my full-size novel, and I wanted to know more by the time Cagliostro came out, so I used my short stories as marketing tests as well, so I can learn firsthand and not always just by me learning from listening to other people's takes, because even though that may have worked for them, I want to try it, but I don't want to take like the chance on my full-fledged novel that it took so much of money or took so much of this to put in. I don't really want to play with that. So that's why I used Room Within and Fractals that were cheaper to produce and they were cheaper for people to purchase, but I used them as tests on things that I did not know yet. So yeah, I definitely used Amazon, and to me, Amazon was probably the best return as far as like people clicked it, and bought it.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I just want to jump in. Make sure your budget for ads is controlled. You do not want that to get out of control. So if you can't afford to risk it, don't do it. That's my default position. You don't have money to do it, don't do it. Wait until you got some budget, because it may or may not make sales. It may or may not give you a return. And even if it does give you a return, it may be a negative return. So people need to just keep that in.
Yeah, I'll second that. Myself, I'm sorry, Ben.
No, you go ahead, dude. Go. This is all you. I want to hear what you have to say.
I haven't had much success with Facebook ads myself. Like TILLERY, eyes, but not sales. See it and move on. I don't see a lot of engagement on Facebook, but I still try it every now and then because it's like fishing. You know what I mean? Like one of these days I'm going to cast one in there and get a whole bunch. Like it's bound to happen, but I keep my like Andy said, keep the budget in check, keep it low. I only put in what I'm getting back from sales, money I make from sales, I put back into my marketing. Don't take food off your table to do Facebook ads because it's not going to be worth it. That being said, I find that there are way more book readers looking to buy books on TikTok, and I do see some sales on Instagram as well. But TikTok is definitely the hotspot right now because I feel like TikTok has developed a reputation for its TikTok shop, and as a result of that, it has permeated to, well, people can sell stuff on TikTok and people will go and buy it. People seem confident in it, so they'll go and they're more willing to spend money on there. And the dynamics of the TikTok like videos and what you can do with them makes it fun and interesting for the viewer, and that also translates into more sales. So definitely pick the platform appropriately, put in what you think is appropriate, experiment with it, start small, don't chuck all your money into one big ad, play it smart.
Yeah, and I just wanted to build off of what DL said as well, in that I could see with the Facebook ads that I was getting, let's say 10,000 views. And then there's like the next step, which is of that, 4,000 people would actually click on the link. And the link set in the advertisement that I had set up, the link said like, click here to purchase the book for $1 or something like that. And then of those 10,000, maybe 1,000 click the link. And then from there, it would be like maybe 5 to 10 sales at most, but probably more likely it was only one that I could directly attribute to Facebook. And so I'm kind of fascinated how there's no other reason for somebody to click that link unless they were going to purchase it, because that's, click here to buy it. So I was always just kind of fascinated with how it gets filtered down, where you have such a mass number of people looking at it. So you get lots of great eyes on, they're interested, they click the link, and then just nothing from there. So there feels like there's a disconnect in some of these services.
My theory about that, because I tripped on the same thing. Yeah. Well, no, my theory about that, because I tripped on the same thing. Like, why would you click on the thing if you're not going to buy it? If the button says click here to buy, I totally get that. I think it has a little, at least in part, to do with tabs. You know how people are always talking about how they have like 500 tabs open all the time? That's what it is, man. Like they click on it and it opens and they leave. I'm gonna
I
buy
saved
on
it for
payday.
later.
Yeah, I saved it for later. I'm gonna buy it on payday. Don't forget. Someday they'll see the tab and they'll be like, "What is this? I don't even know what this is," and they'll close it. Like that's what it is.
Yeah, because the good cover pull man. Because I mean, let's be honest, the cover is really great on your book bin. So people are like, oh man, I gotta see what this is about. What's going on here? So let me click this for later because whatever I'm doing on Facebook, like okay, and whatever I'm doing on Facebook, I'm gonna say this for later. I'm sure. I think Adrian's probably in on that one. He's probably right. And you have to look at the way YouTube also works with that. Like if we have a subscriber base, look at your numbers and your percentage of how many of the subscribers really look at your video, and then even deeper about the length of time that said people that did view it looked at the full length of the thing. So it's like every platform with humans, because we have viewing our stuff, they're quite similar in their patterns. And as it goes with the herd of today, people's attention spans are very small. And that even probably goes to clicking things later.
And I think that probably supports why Amazon ads may work better because you're already on Amazon, already looking at books, getting an ad for a book. You're there to buy a book versus being on Facebook for socialization or whatever else that is that you're doing.
Exactly. Everything you're doing. So I'm sure you're right.
You don't have to leave the website to go to another place to click on a button to buy the thing.
Being there. So do you guys see anything specifically working well for like genre-based things? And I'm glad that we have Andy here, that he is nonfiction, because we kind of get the fiction side. But even with genre level, do you guys see certain things working better for certain genres?
I do. I see one for sure for romance, TikTok. Like it's become like a crazy blowout thing. Like it's like, oh, book talk, but it's like for the erotica and or romance. If you go on there and you write romance of any kind, in most cases, the books are going to be like, people are going to be coming at you. So that's like,
readers.
right? Exactly. So I would think that if you're a romance writer for sure, definitely going to tell you to go to TikTok for sure. Also look for groups about your genre. There are some groups showing up on Facebook that is made up of writers and readers. And it's about getting reviews, but everyone's reading each other's stuff. And these are readers and writers. Those groups are pretty awesome. This is how a lot of indie authors are getting more reviews, because of making groups of readers and writers. So they allow people in who are writers, but it's like a form you have to fill out. So they don't let anybody in. You have to be serious about being a reviewer and a reader and a writer. If you a reader or writer, doesn't matter, because me and Aphrodite both got into one that is for erotica and for romance. So the writers, the people that run it, put your book up to say like, okay, well, this is coming, blah, blah, blah. You have the links to how they.
Did everyone else lose?
Yeah, I think she's at least frozen.
All right.
Oh, Ben, did you have, well, Ben, if you want to talk about, I think you were going to say something about the genre specific marketing.
Yeah, sure. I can scramble. So not obviously my personal experience doesn't really work out well here for me, but we've had Martin Lejeune on here, and I know that he had a lot of great success with space operas. So yeah, I'll say that space opera, space fantasy, space science fiction had great success with Facebook ads. But DL, take it away. So.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Comcast. What can I say? I know, right? But yeah, so I think that with those groups, they work really well, the structure that they built. And I'm watching how they work. I've read and reviewed books for them. And let's say they'll get like one woman to get like 25 people signed up for a book, or 50. You are required to review it. And they kind of monitor the type of reviews. Let's say you could put the review up, but they don't allow or like reviews below 3 stars. If you feel your review is going to be 2 stars or lower or at 3, you actually contact the author, because the author's in the chat group, and say like, I don't like it, or blah, blah, blah. You feel, because their whole point is to help indie authors get reviews that not necessarily are bad, but also get them reviews, period. So It's kind of like they want the feedback, but it's not like they don't want, if it's something they can fix before it comes out, you know what I'm saying? Because these are like books before they release in a lot of cases. We have some that's out, and that's a little bit different, but a lot of them are before they're out. So if you have an issue, that is a lot of people coming back and telling you can still fix it, because it's kind of like a ARC and beta reader type of situation, really, you know what I mean? So it's a really good thing, because I've seen a lot of the people who books came out and released, and then you get day of reviews because that's what you agreed to.
Mm-hmm.
So the people actually are following through because they got in the group for that. If you don't want to follow the group rules, you can just leave if you feel like you can't give what you said. So it seems to be working out quite well. So I would recommend for anybody to look for any groups like that on Facebook. Facebook is still good for those type of things, but a lot of us have moved on to different social medias. It's definitely good for writers. And your genre is what you want to look for, genre-specific ones, of course. Romance is always the biggest one, or erotica is one of the biggest ones, because women will read that and eat it up. If you write in romance, you're probably going to be making money. Like, yeah, the seasoning. You got the seasonings.
The spicy.
The spicy stuff. So, yeah, that's my take on that. I think that those things work well for romance. I'm getting into writing romance, so I've kind of been really looking more and more into avenues for that, because I will say romance readers are very dedicated. They will buy your stuff. Once they will back you up. They don't play. That market sells so well. And you'll be like, what? So yeah, romance readers for sure. Less horror readers, I'll be looking at them sideways like, where you at? But yeah, that's just my take on that.
I was going to second Ben, what he was talking about too, about Martin Lejeune, because he's also told me some of the success he's had. And he does his Facebook ads in bursts. So it's not like he doesn't do it constantly. He picks a time, he does it in a few days, stops it, looks at his ROI, and then he'll start it back up again on a different day. He tries different things all the time.
I'm really surprised that works, though, because with Facebook, at least, it takes like a week to get things up and running for it to know who to send your ad to. So I'm surprised that works when you do it in bursts.
They say the same thing for Amazon ads, that you have to leave your ad running for a while for it to understand the audience is trying to reach. But people still do those in bursts too.
Yeah. Trying to watch the monies.
It does seem like something that they would say to, get you to pay out more.
Of course, that's what they would tell you.
Right.
They said, come on, stay there for a week, get us more money.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is kind of interesting, where you kind of want to tailor the service that you're using to your audience, where you mentioned how romance is more like TikTok. I don't want to, I'll generalize a little bit and say that, Facebook viewers and users tend to maybe be a little bit older than, say, TikTok users.
They are.
So
yeah, the data's there.
I'm just
You're on
general thing. But yeah, so like space opera, space military sci-fi tends towards an older crowd generally, as opposed to, I don't know, the latest
like YA fantasy.
Yeah, YA fantasy. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was about to say Rick Riordan, but that that's kind of all over the place. So, but yeah, YA fantasy might be more towards TikTok. So, kind of know your audience is a great place to start.
This is really fascinating for me because my audience goes across age groups. So, because I'm trying to telling people this is how you can do it. And people who want to do this generally don't have like an age limit. Okay, there is an upper age limit probably, like in the investing kind of space. Like once you're 80, 70, 80, that's not your focus, One from like, teens all the way to 40s and 50s, everyone is interested. So I don't actually have an age group which I target. So my approach is kind of mostly on the search engine kind of thing. And also I would say it's, well, for me anyway, I do the occasional book promo stacking just to get the algorithm kind of, tuned up a little bit. Because if it doesn't see much activity on any of your books or some of your books, it's worth just kind of doing a blast for me, a book promo kind of stack to tweak the algorithm a little bit and just tickle it and say, I'm still relevant. People are still downloading my stuff, so feel free to push it to people who like this stuff. So that's kind of what I've done.
There is a class by David Cochran. He has a course online about successfully promoting your book on Amazon.
Starting from zero.
Starting from zero. Thank you. Yes. And one of the big things that he pushes for is a solid week of sales where your numbers are consistent. His point is you don't have to sell hundreds and hundreds of copies a day. You just have to sell consistent numbers each day throughout that week. So if from Monday to Friday, you're selling, let's just put a random number, 20 units per day, right? 20 on Monday, 20 on Tuesday, 20 on Wednesday. And if you can even bump it up a little bit on Friday to 25 or 30, all of that's going to go into the algorithm. The algorithm's going to push your book for the next 2 weeks to the audience that's going to respond to it because it's seeing consistent sales. Not that you're selling huge and then dipping down, but you're consistent, you're maintaining. And in that course gives a lot of pointers, one of them being market to different places each day. Monday is your newsletter. Tuesday is your newsletter swaps with other people. Wednesday is Facebook. Thursday is TikTok. Right? Keep mixing it up. And that way you're drawing from different audiences every day. You're not fishing in the same pool every day.
Yeah, that's smart and very true. When I do my, like, the book is free run on Amazon, and I did this test with Rumors and Fractals, when I would run that for the week that they allow you to, and then the sales would go, everyone's like, oh, free book, what? And then they blow up like it's like 25, 30 in the one day. And then it goes down slowly. And then if you are saying this is free, blah, 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 and you're different places, like you just said, then they're like, oh, and you get hits. Now, after your free sale is over, if you watch your sales and if you keep on doing your basic, advertising in your places, your sales don't just drop all the way back down, because they, like you said, fed it in that algorithm. It got up in there. So it's going to be up there for a week or two. So it's kind of like a momentum thing. And then you can get sales. I've gotten where the book went off for free, and then I've got continuous sales after the fact, because it was on that riding wave thing. And I kept, telling people, about it. So you're right.
David Cochran calls that the halo effect, where he'll recommend doing, a sales price for that week where we're trying to get those consistent numbers. Just mark down your price, get as many sales during that week consistently each day as possible. And then on Friday, that's the last day of your sale. So on Saturday, your price goes back to full price. But now you've made a mark on the algorithm, and now they're pushing your book, and now people are going to be buying it at full price. And that's that halo, that like after effect of you're making sales after your sale. So the big numbers that you're making that week aren't even the goal. The goal is to get into the algorithm so that you can then raise your price back up and make consistent sales afterwards for a couple of weeks.
Yep. I mean, going to what Shannon said earlier on about word of mouth, I've done word of mouth as far as because I run a cleaning business, so I have a lot of clients that I'm kind of personal with. So then when they find out I'm an author, they're like, well, what do you write? And I'm like, okay, well, I'll write this. And they're like, okay, well, give me the link or whatever. And if I have free copies, then I'll take them a copy. And I've actually sold usually when my book come out, I always sell at least 35 copies of that book right away, word of mouth. And I don't know if anyone has tried the old days mailbox dropping. Has anyone else tried that? And I mean that and Ben's like, wait, what? Yeah. So mailbox dropping. Huh? You know how newspapers, how they solicit newspapers, even, you got boxes that people say don't solicit here, but most of the time people don't. So one way I found that could work is, where you live, you could start there. You would have your author, let's say you have an author card or something, or a postcard or whatever. Or bookmark, something with your name on as an author. And then, you know how they have those zines now, everyone's selling all the crazy zines on Etsy. If you did a sample of your book, let's say you had a book coming out, let's say Ben, for instance, and he did a sample of the first 5 pages or the first chapter, if he will, like you do online. We do it all the time, but in a physical manner as well, because there's nothing wrong with doing physical, just like we go to cons and things like that for physical sales. If you do it this way, that's you don't know these people, but it's endless because there's mailboxes everywhere. If you had the time to do mailbox dropping, but when I've been running a cleaning business a long time. Back in the day when I was a kid, my mom used to advertise that way. She would drop her business card and a flyer in mailboxes. But if you do it,
I thought that was against the law to mess with people's mailboxes unless you're a mail person.
It's not really I wouldn't say it's against the law to drop things in the mailbox. That's why I said start with your neighborhood, because most of the neighbors in your neighborhood know you exist.
Yeah.
I won't give it so much because I always did, when I moved to a neighborhood, I always do Christmas cards. But that's just me. But I always did Christmas cards. So everybody in the neighborhood know that this house gave out Christmas cards. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like building a repertoire with people. But I always do that in the neighborhood just because when I moved to it, I do that. And so I would always just do mailbox dropping in my neighborhood because that I know my neighbors. You know what I'm saying? It's a little different if you go outside of your neighborhood. but I always did that for as like an advertising thing for flyers. Of course, once people put "don't solicit" on their mailbox, then you obviously should at least do what they say. A lot of people don't necessarily care, but some people do care. But again, I usually do in my neighborhood because I mostly have a repertoire and know of the people in my neighborhood.
I would say an online version of that is like the last two neighborhoods I've lived in, they've had Facebook page.
Yeah, they do.
So,
They do
yeah.
have those because if you have like I forget what they call them, like the HOA people, they have like all the things on their Facebook, and then you can like kind of allow that. Another way of the old way is like your local paper. You can find out those because I use like Carroll County, that's where I live. You could put the ad for your book in there, it's releasing. You never know where readers are going to be.
But I
So
would say that probably works with a certain age group too.
it does too. So that if you obviously if you're writing YA, then you know the library is the place where you need to be trying to get in front of kids and stuff. Since I write adult stuff, most of my stuff is going to be anywhere from adult and whatever age, honestly. But this is like some old classical stuff that I think a lot of us don't use anymore, you know. And if you want to try to be like, well, I don't really want to mailbox drop physically myself or whatever, the ways around that is your local paper that's going to be dropped at people's houses, whether they freaking want them or not. And those really, we don't want them, but we get them anyway, and we may glance them. One of the other ones is that mailer. It's like an envelope that comes to everyone's freaking house and has like the coupons for the fast food, local places, stuff like that. People look at those because they like to buy fast food. I've put ads inside there and I've gotten some sales from that. So you could you could do old school stuff too for physical stuff because physical buyers still kind of think physical in a world. So, so those are like old school ways that a lot of us aren't going to do anymore because we're not even from that generation.
I don't even like to walk in my neighborhood, let alone go to people's mailboxes and touch them.
Right. See, I'm so used to like Christmas, and people kind of like that when they get Christmas cards. My mom and I started this whole thing. Every neighborhood we lived in, we would put out Christmas cards. Even we moved there a couple months before, we would drop Christmas cards with our address and family name in it. And then my mom would, like the 5 or 6 houses that was closer to us, she would drop little gifts at the doors on Christmas Eve or whatever. Now we started a whole chain in our neighborhood that we all get different gifts on porches for everybody's copying what we did, which is cool. So then you kind of just build a repertoire of people. It's kind of like if you're at a con, but you're in your neighborhood. So if you see people in passing, they might know. So a lot of my neighbors now know that I'm an author. So I'm like, don't be surprised if you see like a free copy of my short story, and they're like, please just drop it by, So it's kind of like really talking to people and kind of bringing the old school stuff in with the new school stuff, because the more areas you could cover, you never know who your book can get in front of is kind of like my point too. So word of mouth is a classic.
To put a nice little cap on top of word of mouth, something I'm working on right now, I haven't actually tried this yet. It's an idea that I had a couple of days ago, and I'm working on it. I'm creating a digital, what's a good word for it? Like a marketing kit, and I'll put a QR code leading to it in the books, so that when the reader is done reading the book, hopefully they've enjoyed it. They'll scan that QR code. It's going to give them a bunch of stuff that they can put on their websites, on their blogs, that they can send to people in emails, that free review copies, the short story for free, just chock full of free stuff that looks nice and is easy to use, and that they would be excited to share with people, and just make it easily accessible to anyone who's interested in your book, so that they can pass it around. Because
the materials is the thing, that free stuff.
Make them, excited to be, you're now part of my street team or whatever. And, just get the people jazzed about it.
That's very true.
Maybe give them a mission or something, like your mission, should you choose to accept it.
Like when Shannon did your Kickstarter and you had that free short story, you got the short story beforehand, you know what I mean? So I think that's always a good selling point, like a short story, or in my case, when I do my newsletter, I give a free poem with each newsletter. So I think that when people hear something free, yes, it takes us to give something, but I think when you do like a chapter from a book, or you do like you did a short story, then I think that kind of really pulls people in, which is a great marketing tool to make people want to read more of your stuff. So I think that's always a good thing people can think of. Not everybody can write a short story. I'm not trying to push that on people.
Hard to write
What are you
short
talking
and
about?
write long. Yeah.
More and more that I can't write short stories.
I like to talk about one more thing that I feel like is kind of on the outside thinking, where we've kind of been talking about the outside thinking the box. I didn't say it right. Outside the box thinking. And I think this is a good topic is reviews, because I think reviews, it gives us social proof, but we don't always think about that as a type of marketing, but I do think it is a strong marketing tactic.
It's the biggest marketing tactic.
One of the biggest, I would say newsletter and reviews, book reviews are your two biggest ways to market your book. So how do you guys go about getting reviews?
Oof. Now that's like the that's the
holy grail.
facto. It's so hard. It's so hard. But like I said about that group site that I found on Facebook, where you definitely get reviews. Obviously, Story Origins is a really good one if you can afford that. Of course, because that's a paid type of situation. And then the word of mouth with other authors. If you don't have the money to pay for Story Origin, if you are willing, of course, if you're more introverted, that might not be the easiest thing either, because a lot of us are, to reach out and network. Network is one of the best ways to market yourself. And that's one that a lot of people don't talk about, networking with other people in your field. Because since there's space for everyone, if we actually network with each other, we can actually find more readers. And you can, even if you can't afford Story Origin, you can connect with other authors yourself, reach out to them. You never know what. And then you can build your newsletter that way with other writers. And then that leads to other readers, which I started off building my newsletter that way. Granted, I don't have a lot. I think I'm just up to 20 subscribers for my newsletter. And that was some are readers and some are writers who are also readers. And that was because I was networking and then talked to other authors on YouTube, because I couldn't afford to do Story Origin because I'm so spread thin with all the other resources as an author right now. But I would like to get Story Origin. I've only gotten to use it a little bit. But that's networking. And then the way to get more people to your newsletter, if you can network, if you can't use Story Origins. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big Story Origins user. Every week, like I said, I dedicate time to it. There's 3 huge things that I do with it. Number 1 is get my free short story out to people as a, thank you for joining the newsletter. So that grows the newsletter. You have to sign up for the newsletter to get that. So that brings your newsletter numbers up. The other one is actual universal book links to the novel, trying to sell as many as possible. So if you get a newsletter swap with that link in there, you're hopefully making some sales. And then the third one is the review copies. You can upload a free copy of your novel and the person can download it for free, and they're entering a loose, little contract with you saying, hey, I'm going to read this for free and I'm going to review it. They don't expect 100% of them to do it, but the ones that do is generally worth it.
Review count.
I would add that Story Origin also prompts them. They send emails to them, say, hey, by the way, this book is out now, or hey, by the way, it's been 30 days since you downloaded the book. So
actually, I got an email from a book about your book, actually. Yes, they emailed me the other day and said, oh, you purchased this, you have this book, have you reviewed it yet? And I'm like, I'm on it, guys. It's on my to be read list.
Give me a minute.
I did not know Book Club did that.
So Book Club does it. If you haven't reviewed it and they know you have the book, then they will send out an email. They're pretty calm with it. But I think that's good. So the more platforms, I've always been the type of author that said the more platforms you can get on, it doesn't always matter that you try to utilize every single one all the time, because that can be overwhelming for some people. Not everybody can do that, but it is important to have a presence at least on there, because like if you, let's say you don't constantly do BookBub stuff, but you are on BookBub and your books are linked through this, they will send out emails of people who did get your book, which is good, a way for you to have marketing that you didn't even know you had. You know what I mean?
What I'll say about the BookBub, this is like, I only had to set it up and I don't have to touch it again, but it is I have 8 different automation sequences for my newsletter, because I have different places that my readers come in at. Every sequence has one email in there that says, hey, have you heard about BookBub? This is what BookBub is for readers. Yeah. And so I say, would you please make a profile on BookBub if you don't have one and follow me? And I get 1 to 2 new followers every 1 to 2 weeks.
Yeah, some people don't even know about BookBub. So I like that you put that in your newsletter. It's kind of important people too. I use YouTube as well to remind people. Like if whatever video I'm doing, if it's a book, I remind like, could you please leave me a review? It really helps me out. And some of the people who are your subscribers didn't even necessarily think about it. You know, everyone's so busy with their lives that they can read a book and just be like, okay, I'm done. Yay, I read the book. And they'll tell you that they read the book and stuff. You're like, but just leave me a review. They're like, oh, well, I didn't do that.
Even if it's just a rating, it would help.
Right, exactly. Like, please, even for second rating, I'll take that. Like, I'll be like, why didn't they write anything? But I see the stars, so I'll take it.
I like to remind people that this is a good book, is a perfectly acceptable book review. You don't need to write a whole other book of your own as a review. You don't need to be eloquent. It doesn't have to be anything. All I need is the numbers. I just need a new review.
So just put it up. See it. So
buy this book. That's a review. Like that.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be crazy. Like you don't have to write a thesis. So yeah, I would recommend you can use YouTube or whatever platform you use to make your little video clips. Did you leave a review today? You know, just be funny with it. And I think that does bring in, because when I do mention it in my videos, I do notice, okay, I got a review. I think somebody forgot. And then they would leave a review. So I think that actually does help. So that's another way that I do it to get reviews in.
I think the last thing that I'll say on this is that for those of you out there on a budget, like we all are, if you can't afford to pay Story Origin every month in order to participate in these newsletter swaps and to do your review copy or whatever, you can do it yourself. You can, we all mentioned here, you can do your newsletter swaps on your own, talking to people in your Discord servers, connect with other authors, but you can do the review copies too. You can put it on your own website. You can put a link to download a free copy on your own website, or a link to email you requesting that, if you don't want to make it too easy. But the point is, you can do it yourself. You don't need to pay Story Origin to do it. You're not going to get as many numbers, but you can still do it. So there's, especially in the age of the internet that we live in now, there's always a way to do the thing you want to do for free, even if it's not on par with the quality that you would like to be at someday. You can work up to that. Someday you'll have the money to pay for that. In the meantime, start off with the free stuff. There's nothing wrong with that.
It's okay to start small.
Yeah.
It's okay. Yeah. It's better than not doing anything at all. So.
Yeah. Your favorite author, once upon a time, nobody knew who the hell they were.
That's facts.
They had to start from somewhere.
Ben or Andy, how do you guys get reviews?
Go ahead, Ben.
It's a work in progress. We were talking about this before the show, and Shannon, you were saying that you had 70 and how it was, you were always hoping to get more, and I would be thrilled to get 70.
Me and Ben what? 70?
Yeah, I think I'm hovering right now in the low 30s.
Yeah.
So I don't have a good answer. A lot of the people who know that you need to give reviews are authors, but the readers may not necessarily be that aware. So everybody who said like, hey, I bought your book, I respond to them with, can you give a review, or have you reviewed it yet? And sure, that helps with word of mouth. And honestly, just hoping I make it as easy as possible. We have, at least within my ebook, you get to the end of it and it automatically has it in there. But my About Me page at the end of the book, there's also a link to take you directly to the review page. So there's a lot of different methods that I have that kind of try to move you from, hey, I finished the book, to here's what's next. How effective that is, it varies.
Maybe we need to come up with an incentive for reviewing. Like if you leave a review, then you get like a free thing.
So you have to be careful. You can't give things away. But I'm trying something tomorrow with my newsletter that I'll talk about here in a second. But I want Andy to go ahead and talk, because he's actually got a whole playlist of different places he's tried to get his reviews.
Yeah. So because mine is nonfiction. So my main, obviously I ask people for reviews straight out, and I do that on social media. I just say, if you read this book, feel free to drop a quick review. I do that very sparingly. In fact, I should do it more often. But basically, that's one way. The other way is just to put book review requests inside your book. So make sure that's there, like maybe at the end, typically. But I want to say that the lead magnet, so the freebie giveaway or whatever you want to call it, at the start of the book, that's on my copyright page or thereabouts. Okay? And that's where I go, if you want free stuff, sign up here. And in that free stuff, I deliver some videos, some training, that kind of thing. And at the end, this comes back to the feel-good factor. And I'm not saying you get this if you do this. That's not what I'm saying. You get this regardless of whether you do anything. But within the training that I provide, I say, if you enjoyed any of this, feel free to check out my book. And then later on, I'll be like, if you read any of my books, feel free to go leave a review, and the review link is directly there, right? So you want to reduce the friction. So those are two main ways I get my reviews. I do like editorial reviews because it's just nonfiction, and also gives me a bit more authority when someone else has reviewed it. Someone I know it's paid editorial reviews, some of them, not all of them, but it does add credibility because those reviews are typically public. And it has to be, well, usually reviewed by someone who actually knows what they're talking about, or at least know something about that field. So it's not just, well, anyone can drop a review. That is true. But editorial reviews are usually done by people who have some knowledge in that field. So I do actually splurge a little bit, and it depends on your budget. But yeah, I do have a budget for editorial reviews just to kickstart people's ideas. People look at other people to see what have other people said about this book. And that's where I use editorial reviews just to kind of kickstart the process. And hopefully, with my plugs of feel free to review if you read the book, or if you want free training, sign up here. And then during the free training, if you've read my books, feel free to drop a review, that kind of thing. That's primarily how I do it. And also ARC services, like I've got a whole playlist on that. I always do all of them. There are services that kind of has something similar to what DL does. I don't do those. So that's something I actually don't. Yeah, exactly. There are so many of those now. So there's like Get Book Reviews, Book Roar or something. Hubby, obviously really popular. But my main issue with those is you can check out a video, but it's just not for me at the moment. And I'm also watching Alliance of Independent Authors. I'm waiting for them to say, is this okay or not? And that's kind of a big, because they do the due diligence that I can't do. They get into the detail that I can't get. And until they give me the green light, until they have done their due diligence and said this is okay, I'm kind of staying away from it for now. So those are my main ways to do things for reviews wise.
Yeah, I'd have to go off of what you said on that part, Andy, about I'm very skeptical about paid reviews. I've never paid for a review because I personally, as a fiction writer, I think it'd be different for nonfiction in my head somehow. But as a fiction writer, I wouldn't personally feel comfortable with paid reviews of any kind, only because of I just don't feel like it's personal. I just don't feel that.
It's ill advised. It'll get you banned off of Amazon at worst.
Well, I know Amazon.
There is a difference though with what Andy's talking about. Andy's talking about
editorial,
which is different than reviews on the book.
Exactly. So let's just make that distinction. I'm not suggesting anyone pay for reviews because that is actually against terms of service. I'm talking specific editorial reviews.
Oh, I know what you meant, Andy. That was me personally. I'm saying that editorials are against the rules. I just don't, any kind of review that was paid for, I don't kind of want it. If I get a review from a author, let's say another author who read my book and wants to and give me a byline or something like that, that I would love. Anything that someone took the initiative to read my book, if they purchased my book and left me a review, that's the only type of payment that I would like to be between us. I just personally don't like, rather, I know it's editorial. I've read all about those, but it's like, I just don't like the idea of paying because it was an obligation to for sure leave the review because you were paid to do so, even though it's your field, you know what I mean? Which I totally get the difference of that. But it's just that was my take on that. Why I haven't gone that route. Just like you said, you want to go the other route. I didn't want to go that route for that reason. And of course, we all got our own ideas of what we like and don't like in that instance. But that's kind of like why I never used Fiverr, because they have people who, as their business, they actually review books to be paid for it. And some people do use those things. And I'm not going to knock them for doing what they're going to do or whatever they feel they need to do because they're desperate, of course, for reviews because we all want reviews. But even with that, when I was like, no, even if the service allowed it, like Amazon, if they don't, but some places it wouldn't matter. You could put those type of reviews up on your website. You could do that still. I wouldn't feel comfortable with those. But I think groups that are dedicated readers who they know that if I get in this group and I'm going to read this person's book that they gave me to read, I'm going to leave a review. I think that is kind of like a nice agreement between reader and writer to say like, okay, well, we all hope that the reader, after they got the book, they would actually leave us a review of their feelings. But this kind of puts it in the case that, okay, well, I'm getting free books pretty much because I'm getting ARC reviews. I'm getting ARC copies. So now that I know that the writer really wants me to review their book and we're in this group, then I will go ahead. I filled out the form that I'm going to review it. I think it was a cool system that they're starting to come up with in order for us to be in contact with the readers without, overabundance being in contact. But it's like a nice kind of balanced relationship. But these are kind of new groups. So it's not like it's a lot of them for every genre. You really would have to dig for your specific genre, I think, to find them, though.
So something I'm going to try, because in the book that you guys were talking about, that we talked about before the show started, was my debut in the fantasy, which I've got like 70 plus reviews on it. But I've stopped trying to really get reviews because at this point, I'm not going to be writing straight fantasy. I'm now moving into fantasy romance. And I think I've got 11 reviews on my book and my fantasy romance. I'm like, I need more. So I've been really researching this, and I've done all the things on part of Story Origin. I'm actually part of BookFunnel, although BookFunnel does not do book reviews. They don't have a review service set up through BookFunnel like Story Origin does. But still getting your book in front of people, just like getting that exposure. Sometimes people will review it just by getting that exposure. So I'm doing all the things I've done with Blood Lily. I've gone to groups online on Facebook because I went to a lot of groups on Facebook for Blood Lily, my debut. And that's how I found a lot of my reviewers, was by going to Facebook groups. But not really finding that with the fantasy romance. So I was researching it and actually come back to Kindlepreneur. There's an article he wrote just about a year ago, a little less than a year ago, but it was March of last year. And he gives several different ways that you can get reviews. Some of them is, like having that direct link to your book review page on Amazon, which I think some of us know about that. I don't know if everyone does. It was one of our podcast episodes about creating your direct book link to your book review on Amazon. That's part of it. The one that I really like is this a legal way to do a giveaway contest, because it is against Amazon's terms of service to give anything to anybody who reviews your books. And the only thing you're able to basically exchange is the book. Give them the book for free, then they can review it. You're not supposed to do anyway. But he's laid out this whole thing. He says you absolutely have to follow my steps in order to stay compliant with Amazon. And he lays it all out. And it's part of what you could send out to like your newsletter list. So I am going to be using that tomorrow, because tomorrow is my due date for my newsletter, my monthly newsletter. So I'm going to try it and see if it works. And all it basically is like, hey, enter this contest to win a $50 or $25, whatever number you want, gift card to Amazon. All you have to do is click this link. Well, that link takes them to that direct review link for your book. And it falls within terms of service because you're not telling them that they have to leave a review in order to enter the contest. Entering the contest is just clicking the link, because if you have it tracked on your back end of your newsletter, you can see who clicks your links.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's smart. Actually, that's a good marketing setup. I'm thinking back from my marketing days when I was in sales and in stores, and then the way we would move things around to get it in front of people. And they literally kept missing it when it was somewhere else. And then we would move it to this specific spot, and then they'd be buying it like it was hotcakes, like it wasn't here for like 4 months or whatever, So it's all about the placement and getting, in our case, the clicks of where you need them to go. So that's actually a good idea.
I'm going to try it. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, let us know. Feedback.
Are you going to be running that in conjunction with some kind of giveaway function?
Well, I mean, he also talks about how you can do it through like King Sumo, which I have King Sumo for life. I bought that for life. But and King Sumo, it's a little bit different because you can set it up with like, follow me on Amazon, follow me on YouTube, follow me and all the. And I'm going to do that too. But I want to try these as two different things to see what the rate is, what the return on that is.
Yeah, there's also there's King Sumo obviously, but there's also the giveaway stuff. Like I don't know what they're called these days, but you could participate in a giveaway and get even more clicks. You know what I mean?
Well, I did a library thing giveaway. It just concluded on the last day of February. So I just sent my book out to reviewers because it's called an early review giveaway on library thing. And you have to be within 6 months of your book publishing. So if you're still within 6 months of your book having been published, you can use the service. It's free. And you can say how many books you're willing to give away and whether you're doing ebook or paperback. And I did the top for ebook. So it's 50 ebook copies I was offering. But the people who entered, they can't get more than one book during a giveaway during a month. So I only had 35 who actually got awarded books. And I've already gotten 2 reviews from those.
Oh, I have to get that information from you, Steve, because I didn't know about that one. That's pretty cool, actually. I like that. And I was going to say something off of what Andy said about the feel goods, like in the books, you're not asking for reviews. You're not asking for giving them something for the review, but the building that repertoire with them in the book. I thought about a good idea in fiction if maybe, I don't know, like in the back of the book, because of course this is where the reviews will be if you're talking about Amazon. If you had a page in your book in your layout when you do your formatting, if you had a page that was like, I don't know, something that grabbed attention, like we talked about when you're in physical and in person, that said like, thank you, please review the book, or something that grabbed their attention, that, because even though they finished the story, it already probably went out their head to review the book. They're done. They read the story, they liked it or whatever, and they completely forgot that they were going to be reviewing it. So I think maybe that would have to be something you had to think about beforehand, because it's doing your whole layout of your book and the formatting. So I'm thinking about that. That might be a good idea.
You can say, "You are awesome for making it this far."
Right.
Right?
Another
Something like that.
Another incentive for getting people to write you reviews that I'm going to use very soon here is, if you write a review for Shadow of the Spark, you can be on the ARC team for book 2, The Face of Gaia. And therefore, you'll be able to read it ahead of everybody else. If you liked the first book, that's something that you're going to be excited about. You'll get to read it for free. Also very exciting. And then you'll get to post.
Ben has got to leave out.
Yes.
We're going to be wrapping up here soon. But before, Ben, you leave out, can you give us, because I want to wrap up the show with everyone giving us their best tip or trick you feel everyone should know about marketing?
Hotspot.
Just keep trying. You know, I've come up with a couple of failures, but I'm going to keep going at it, and eventually one of those things will hit.
All right, awesome. Well, Ben, if you got to leave out, we'll see you later.
Take care. See ya.
Bye.
Adios, Ben.
Adrian, did you have more that you wanted to add?
No, that was pretty much it. You know, the idea of building an ARC team.
I actually have that built into my newsletter sequence as well.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, but I have to say that, because I've had a few people who signed up for my street team, and those who signed up that way did not participate in my street team activity. So yeah, I actually had like altogether like 18 people sign up for my street team. 9 of them came over to my Discord, because I did a 4-week challenge. So every week they had a challenge. They met. Every week they got entries into a drawing, and every week they could win a prize for that week. And then there was a grand prize at the end of the week. And of the 9 people who came over to my Discord group, only 3 did full participation. So, and I was like, okay, it went way down from 18 down to 3.
But see, that's the thing. It's a numbers game, right? You know, Ben's parting words, trial and error, man. Just try it. Doesn't work, try something else, or try it again. Sometimes it'll work better the second time. Like it sounds counterintuitive to try the same thing again, but sometimes it really does work. And you have to think about yourself as a consumer, and how many times you've walked past something and just bought it on later on down the road, or how many times you heard somebody out at their pitch of the thing that they're selling to you, and then you're like, you know, thanks, but no thanks. And you know, like, it's a numbers game, man. Eventually somebody's gonna snag it up. You just got to keep trying out there. One thing that I noticed at that I went to most recently, the gentleman at the table next to me, and he's going to be a guest on the Writer's Den in a few weeks, so I'll talk to him about this. He was writing this, or rather he was selling his post-apocalyptic sci-fi book, and he had like a tagline, like a selling tagline that he was saying to everybody. Every person that walked by, he delivered it. And every time he delivered the line, he delivered it with the same amount of excitement and gusto. And 90% of the time, people were like, oh, that's cool. And they kept walking like that. But every once in a while, somebody would stop. Somebody would be like, oh, that's interesting. And they'll come in. And he voiced his frustration with me, because he's like, yo, sometimes I see a person and I'm like, oh, this one is going to be it. And I say the line and it's like repellent. They're gone. And other times, like, I have no, you know, and I'm like, that's how it is, man. It's a numbers game. Like, you just don't know. You just got to keep trying.
Right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap up with this final question, which is, what do you guys see as one marketing tip or trick, the best one that you think everyone should know about?
Who wants to go first? All right. Best thing that I can possibly think of, since Ben already said the best one, which is try and try again and keep trying and don't stop trying. I think the best tip that I can give is try to take your emotions out of it. Try to put your thinking cap on and be as pragmatic as possible. When you see things are working, don't get crazy. Don't throw all your money into a thing because it's working. It might not continue to work. It might only work a little bit for a little while. Trial and error is a big one, but just don't take it personally, man. Like, sometimes people are going to tell you they're going to write you a review and then they don't. And you got to just let that fall off of you. And sometimes people are like, hey, I'm excited to read your book. And then they write you a 1-star review because they hated it. And you're like, well, you know, that happens too. Take emotion out of it and try your best.
Yep. And concur that. I would say my tip or trick would be to, and I'm kind of always been an adamant one about that, to get yourself in as many places as you can. It's not always going to be dire to use all those places constantly, but it is a type of free marketing for your name to pop up. As time goes on, you will show up in Google, which is one of the most important ones. You want to show up in Google search. You want to make a name for yourself. You want to make rather that be a theme or rather that be a tagline or whatever. You want that to become your front runner. And that's one of the things of building your author platform. And that's not just YouTube. That is your platform in general. That is who you are as an author. Of course, I feel bad for you if you have multiple pens and you write in multiple genres like myself. It is a little bit more difficult. It takes more work, of course, and dedication and time that we do not have always, but we try to make time. So my biggest tip is to get yourself in many places as possible. When you start off building your author platform, it is smart to get yourself a Instagram, a TikTok, a Facebook author page, whatever, all the socials. There's always new ones popping up. You try to keep up with that. It can be a little crazy. You have a Threads again, but you will find the very specific ones that you'll have to work and ones that work for you. But again, the more you did that, type your author name. This is the research part. Type your author name in Google and see if you come up. See where you come up. Because I can guarantee that if I type author DL Tillery on Google and I get other people to do it, I come up. It's not like I'm going to be hidden. So they're like, well, that's a direct search. Yes, but if you type in the Mistress of Horror, which is my persona, I will be in the top. Yeah. So it's important to build your author platform. So that is one of my main tips and tricks to build your author platform, because that's going to be one of your biggest marketing tools as you go down the line, because you have something different than everyone else, because it is a sea of us. We are limitless as far as books coming out and authors and new authors constantly appearing. So you have to have something that is uniquely yours and uniquely you that will stick out, even if it doesn't stick out at first, but you started with that or you created it as you went on and learned that's you. And then you can lead with that, and it'll be one of your marketing tools as you go down the line.
Yeah, just a couple of things for me, really. I would always tackle the lowest hanging fruit according to what you have right now. So whatever is easiest for you, do that first, because that's easiest. And number two is keep on testing and don't be discouraged. It's like keep trying. But on top of that, I would say keep gathering data and see what's working. If something doesn't work, you just found one way or not where it doesn't work. It doesn't mean you haven't found the holy grail yet. It just means one way doesn't work. That means there's a lot of other ways that may work, and you got to keep on testing and keep on gathering data.
Awesome. I love all of those. So my marketing tip or trick, I would say, is be open to learning, because things always change. You will learn how to do keywords on Amazon and pick your categories, and then they change it. So be open to and willing to learn. And I think if you are open and willing to learn marketing as the trends change, as the platforms change, you'll know if you're on these different platforms, like author DL Tillery says, you're going to know those changes are happening. If you are trying different things, like Ben says, then you're willing to probably be open to learning. So I think this all kind of encompasses all of it. So that would be my biggest tip or trick. Well, thank you guys. This was an awesome conversation and talking about marketing books.
Fun.
So thank you to our guests, Andy, DL Tillery, and Adrian Santiago. We really appreciate the time you took to talk about marketing today. There are links for each of our guests in the show notes for the podcast and the description box for YouTube. I will also link some of the things that we talked about down below, some of the articles and links, and I'll put a link to Story Origin as well, because we did talk about that quite a bit this episode. So yeah. Thank you so much to our listeners and viewers. On May 15th, we'll have a book review episode on Lisa Cron's Story Genius. And so with that, it will wrap up this special episode on marketing. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Toodles.
Thank you so much to our incredible listeners and viewers for joining us on our exploration of everything self-publishing. We hope you found our podcast to be a treasure trove of insights and inspiration. If you've enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform or thanks on our YouTube episodes. Don't forget, you can catch all of our past episodes on YouTube, Spotify, and other major podcast platforms. Keep writing, keep publishing, and we'll see you next time.